The last goodbye. Look, I won't sugarcoat it. My life completely fell apart over something that, in my heart, I still don't believe was wrong. People can believe what they want. They can call me names, twist the story, label me the villain. But unless you've lived through what I have, you don't know. You can't know. My name is Elise. I'm 29. And until a few months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was engaged to a man named Jared. We'd been together almost 3 years, engaged for 8 months, living in this cozy one-bedroom apartment in a tree-lined neighborhood with quirky coffee shops and friendly neighbors. Wedding planned for next spring. Shared Spotify playlist. A vision board with baby names on it. That kind of thing. I worked part-time as a freelance graphic designer, which gave me flexibility to handle things around the house. Cleaning, laundry, planning the wedding, dealing with both of our families. Jared worked full-time in logistics and paid most of the bills. We made it work. From the outside. Picture perfect. But what people don't talk about enough is how relationships take work. They take patience, vulnerability, trust. And Jared? Well, he was a good man in many ways, but also rigid. Judgy even. I couldn't bring up my ex, Nate, without watching his expression change. Like I'd just broken some unspoken rule. Nate and I were together for 6 years. We grew up together, in a way. First love, serious stuff. Of course he'd come up in conversation every now and then. But Jared, he didn't get it. He didn't want to get it. Meanwhile, he'd ask me where I was going, who I'd been texting. He'd get this tone when I came home late, like he was trying not to sound jealous but couldn't help it. And okay, I glanced at his phone once or twice when he left it face up on the couch. But who doesn't? He had group chats full of memes and frat-level nonsense. I never said anything. He'd make comments about my friends too. Subtle digs. I don't know how you put up with Danielle's drama. Or Carmen seems exhausting. Meanwhile, his friends were man-children who played video games until 3 a.m. and still called each other bro unironically. And then came the money thing. Jared started hinting that maybe it was time for me to get a real job. Something with benefits. Something full-time. Just until after the wedding, he'd say. But planning a wedding, that is a job. I handled it all. Appointments, tastings, invites, managing the guest list from hell. What stung most was the lack of appreciation. I'd make his favorite lasagna after a long day. Wash and fold his laundry because I knew he hated it. Organize his chaotic closet so he could finally find a matching pair of socks. And he wouldn't even notice. No thanks. No hugs. Just silence. Still I was holding it together. Until the night everything shattered. It was a Tuesday in March. We were halfway through dinner when my phone rang. I looked down and froze. It was Sierra, Nate's younger sister. The world shifted. Already knew. I didn't even have to answer. He knew. When I picked up, her voice was trembling. Elise, Nate's gone. It was cancer. He passed last night. Cancer. Nate was only 31. He never told me it was that serious. I knew he hadn't been well. He'd texted a few times saying he was tired, that work was stressing him out, but this? I dropped my fork. I couldn't even speak. Jared kept asking what was wrong, but I was numb. My throat closed up. Eventually I told him. And his reaction. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't sympathy. It was interrogation. When was the last time you talked to him? You knew he was sick. Why didn't you tell me? I tried to explain that it wasn't like that. That Nate and I had only exchanged a few texts. That I didn't know the full story. But Jared didn't hear me. He heard lies. He saw betrayal. The funeral gutted me. Seeing Nate's mother again. Feeling her sob against my shoulder. Hearing how much he'd talked about me. How I was the happiest part of his life. Our mutual friends, people I hadn't seen in years, telling me. He never stopped loving you. Wrecked me. At the reception, people shared stories, photos, old inside jokes. I didn't want to leave. It felt like the last time I'd ever be close to Nate again. Jared texted me while I was still there. When are you coming home? That was the moment I realized he didn't get it. I was grieving, reeling, and he was worried about dinner. But that's not the secret that's been eating me alive. It happened the week before Nate died. He'd texted me. Nothing public. Just, "Hey, can I talk to you?" He said he was scared. He felt like the end was coming and he didn't want to die alone. That he just wanted to see someone who once loved him. Talk. To feel human again. I didn't know what to say. But I couldn't ignore it. So I told Jared I was going shopping with my sister that Saturday. I know it was a lie. But what was I supposed to say? "Hey babe, I'm going to see my dying ex-boyfriend for one last conversation." When I saw Nate, I barely recognized him. He was thin, pale, sunken-eyed, but still him. Still Nate. We talked for hours. Laughed. Cried. Reminisced. He thanked me 100 times just for showing up. And then, near the end of the night, he asked for something. Something that still makes my chest ache to remember. He said he wanted to feel close to someone who had truly loved him. Just once more. Not sex for pleasure. Not some cheap indulgence. Just connection. Warmth. Human touch. He was afraid of dying alone. He wanted one last moment of peace. So yes, we were intimate that night. Not because I didn't love Jared. Not because I wanted to betray him. But because this man who had shaped years of my life, who was dying and afraid, asked for something sacred, and I couldn't say no. When I left the next morning, Nate said I'd given him peace. He passed away 3 days later. I didn't tell Jared. He noticed I was distant, kept pressing me with questions. I started snapping at him over little things. The dishes, the mail, his tone of voice, because I couldn't breathe under the weight of that secret. Then one night we fought. Badly. He accused me of shutting him out. I told him he didn't understand what grief is. That he wanted me to get over it on his timeline. Then came the question. Cold. Direct. Did you sleep with him? Could have lied. Maybe I should have. But I was exhausted. So I told the truth. I told him everything. From Nate's texts to that final night, to why I did what I did. Jared went blank. Then cold. Then furious. He asked about timelines. Accused me of lying for weeks. Of cheating. Of choosing Nate over him. I told him this wasn't a story of betrayal. It was a story of mercy. Of love in its purest, most selfless form. He didn't see it that way. He said I used grief as an excuse. That I cheated and justified it with sentimentality. I cried. Not from guilt, but from the weight of realizing that we were fundamentally different people. I could hold compassion for someone in pain. He could only see rules and lines and broken vows. He said he couldn't trust me anymore. That our relationship was over. So here I am now. Alone. Grieving one man and mourning another. But I don't regret what I did. I gave peace to someone who was dying. I gave comfort to someone who once loved me with everything he had. Maybe that makes me the villain. Or maybe it just makes me human.